Hello and welcome. Let's see here. Well, somebody's here watching. I'm trying to set it up so I can see chat. There we go. Mute myself so we don't have to listen to me twice. Once is bad enough. That's weak. I cannot see. I can't see the chat on this. Aha! It's Keith. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us. There it shows up. It's just slow on the chat. Okay, that's fine. We will live with it and make it work. How's my framing this time? Does it look better than last time? You can actually see the hobby stuff in front of me. Well, I'm just going to dive right in. Feel free to talk to me as much as you want. I have my laptop set up so I can at least kind of keep an eye on the chat. But today I'm going to be painting probably for about an hour, at least on live stream until it's time to order dinner. But let me see if I can get it to focus a little better. Two people watching now. One sec, I'm going to see if I can't clean off the lens of my camera. See if that helps. This is definitely a work in progress. Please forgive me. Back down to one viewer. How's that? Is that a little more clear? It doesn't really look like it, does it? Let's see if we can get it to focus. Feel like that made it worse. Well, I got one more trick up my sleeve. All right. Any better with that? That looks a little better. I was hoping connecting to the hotel Wi-Fi would do me some good, and it does look a little better than it did. It may just take it a minute to catch up. Okay, so let's dig in now. So as I was saying, I'm going to be painting up these Warhammer 40k models, the Aeldari Wind Riders. They're what is kind of my army's basic troops now. There we go. Now I can see both the video and the chat, so I can help keep things framed a little better. So yeah, these dudes are just these cool jet bikes that I use some spray paint to do up in a rainbow scheme on the front bit. And then I've already started weathering some of them after doing the rest of the base coating. So these are just going to be a bunch of guys on bikes. So they don't really need to be to a fantastic quality. None of them are my special characters or anything. So I'm just going to be banging out some rough paint onto them. And the reason that I'm weathering them so heavy with the chipped paint, and then I'm going to be going through and doing some black in the middle of the metallic areas to make it look like there's actually holes been punched in the armor, is because the spray paint I used had weird textures and gloopy bits that don't look very good. So I'm using that weathering to kind of hide it all. At least that's my plan. So um, here's one of the bikes that's a little further along in the process. I've done some of the pipe work on it underneath the mechanical bits. I've touched up the red paint in some places where it needed it. And I've added a bunch of weathering where their paint was rough. So we're just going to make sure that my paint on my palette is updated a little bit because it's set overnight. So we're going to just start by making sure it's still viable. Wet palettes are good for that. So my gray color is good. My red, it's a little on the thick side. That's okay. That'll thin out as I start to use my brush and get water in the bristles and get a belly full of water in it. I can already see my black is pretty much entirely dry. There's a little bit that's useful right there. So we'll just get that going. So how's things with you today, Keith? I can just talk straight to you since it's just the two of us at the moment. Just a reminder though, the video will be going up after I'm done with live. Plastic lids are good depending on what paint you're using. If you're not doing any mixing, this thing's hit and miss on what it keeps good. Like my black paint dries out pretty quick. Metallics are rough. So here I've got, it's a Flames of War branded Vallejo, or Vallejo, I guess it is, model color. It's just their flat black. Car work, that's always fun. Did I tell you I had to teach myself how to do a brake job in the driveway the other day? That was last week. That was exciting. And then I've got the same brand gunmetal that I'm going to put a little bit of here on the palette and get started with. It has a bit of a chunk in it though. So you can see it's got the like this chunky bit that's dried around the cap. Get that off of there onto the paper towel. There. Now we can get just paint, no bits. But yeah, as always, real life catches up. Pain, I'm always going for something new. And I bet that was an adventure. Yeah, never done brakes before, so it was definitely a learning experience. But I got it sorted out. YouTube, of course, you can learn anything on YouTube if you look hard enough. And then paints, what brands are you using right now? I've been looking at picking up a new range and just haven't got around to pulling the trigger yet because, well, I had to do brakes on my car, so that costs money. So there I was just working on getting my paint down to the right consistency. It was a little too thick and then a little too thin and took a little work to get it where I wanted it. That ought to be good. Checking any other bad spots of red. Let's touch that up a little more. Yeah. Like so. If I were going to try a new brand of paint right this second, I'm really curious about the Army Painter paints are good. If I were going to recommend any, like I was getting ready to say, I would go with Pro Acryl, but I understand that they have like instead of being like water-based like most acrylic paints, they have some sort of gel-based medium, which I think is interesting. But Army Painter actually is a lot of my paint that I use is Army Painter because it's cheap and readily available, and while it's not perfect, it's good enough. And I've been learning more and more that being able to accept good enough and work with good enough is pretty good. Pretty much all you need most of the time is good enough. Most of the stuff I paint won't be for competitions. I'm just doing it for my own enjoyment. So there's no reason to go out and spend 20 bucks on like 10 milliliters of paint when I can get just as good or better mileage out of the $7 pot of paint, right? And maybe that's where you're at in your painting journey too. Just to the point where, yeah, you need lots of different paints and a good variety of decent paints, but they don't need to be the artist grade. That's a tough lesson to learn, though, that good enough is in fact good enough, and that you don't have to be perfect at everything all the time. That's a tough one, but a worthwhile one. So as I'm painting here, I'm just going through, and these were based by doing the top one way, getting the lines and everything all cut in with taped off spray cans. And then I did the bottom with a white rattle can too, and that's what I'm cleaning up is some of the overspray. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The project that you're working on definitely does play into what you need. If you're doing like you do the Gundams, I know. So if you're doing like the really, really high grade ones that are pro tier, best of the best models, you would not want to gum them up with some thick, nasty, chunky, chalky acrylic paints. That'd just be disrespecting your work. So here, like I said, I'm just getting in and trying to make sure all of the armor on the riders is base coated red to touch it up from the overspray of doing the bottom of the bikes white. So I chose to do the bottom of the bikes white because these are jet bikes, so they're flying models. They are in the fluff said to be able to skim at any altitude, whether that's right above the ground or, at altitude thousands of feet up. So I took a page out of old school military aviation camouflage where the bottoms of the planes would very frequently be painted haze gray or off-white or even pure white to camouflage them to the observers below and make them harder to spot overhead. So I thought that would be, rather than having them be bright white or bright red where they can be really easily spotted from the ground, I would do them up with a little bit of that historical aeronautical camo. It sounds weird to say out loud, aeronautical camo, because like, what are you gonna hide in the sky? But haze gray and off-white are pretty hard to spot in a big open sky, especially if it's any kind of cloudy. Hard to reach places on these guys, that's for sure. That's why the ones that I've built myself as much as I can, I've left the riders off of the bikes until after I get them painted. Which is what this whole pile of guys here is guys yet to be painted. I'm at our South Bay location, so I'm near San Jose. I think I'm, what, about an hour south of San Jose. So these guys were part of my hobby goals for last month, but as I mentioned, the spray paint on them was kind of a pain, so I ended up doing it and redoing it a few times, and as a result they took me longer than I expected. So I'm just now getting around to finishing them. And aside from that, I'm still 2 projects behind on hobby goals. I owe myself a building. There's something else that I'm still behind on. Yeah, those little mini pilots, I was actually thinking about the scale of some of the Gundam models the other day, because I was idly contemplating trying to do wargaming at different scales. Yeah, distance you are from the object you're trying to spray, and then the humidity can play a huge factor. I think part of what got me was the week I was trying to do this priming, there was a ton of rain that week, so the humidity was through the roof, and it just made it a nightmare to try and actually get this stuff done. Somebody else joined us. Can't see who it is because that's on my phone and I'm just reading the comments, but whoever joined us, welcome. Thank you for popping in. Today, as you can see, we're painting some Warhammer 40k Aeldari Wind Riders. I've got a mix of some of the old school and some of the newer models that I'm doing up for a 40k Escalation League at one of my local game stores back in Portland. Right now I'm just touching up the red base coat on the bike and on the riders. That'd be cool. Yeah, I'd really like to know what the scale on some of those are. Because some of the war games I've been looking into recently and thinking about trying to find some similarities to are in 10 and 15 mil, and then I've seen one that's at like 1 to 10,000, but that's like a battleships naval combat big open ocean battles type game, so it's a little different than my norm. So my goal is I'm gonna stream until around 8 o'clock when I need to start thinking on dinner. And in the meantime, hanging out with you lovely people, getting some paint on models, and trying to get these bikers done up. As I was saying, these are my June hobby project that didn't get finished on time. But my goal this month is to finish 3D printing my 1,500 point list. I have the first squad and the HQ for it already printed. They just need cleaned up and primed when I get home. So that's all of the infantry, really. Everything else I'm doing is bikers and a couple of light vehicles. It's a Harlequin's detachment for my 40K escalation league list, my next 500 points for next month. And in the meantime, while I'm running those off on the printer and getting them ready for next month, I'm trying to knock out my actual project from last month, these guys. And then I have a building that I need to finish from, I believe, February or March, one of those 2 months. 3 buildings was the goal. I got 2 out of 3 done. And I've got stuff ready to use for that, but I haven't got around to actually doing it yet. But that's my short-term goal right now. Is just to kind of keep the Escalation League mojo running, because it's been good for my hobby. And I've got to meet some people local that play mini war games, which is always nice. I haven't got to meet a lot of war gamers since moving to Portland while everything was closed. So this is a good excuse to get out, get into a local game store and meet people. And I've met a couple guys that I have enjoyed playing with and theory crafting with. Who'd have guessed? A guy that enjoys designing and tweaking his own war game enjoys theory crafting other war games. It's like being an armchair general watching the coverage of a live war zone, but with none of the problematic risks or loss of human life. So it's win-win-win. I like military tactics and history. I like applying them to tabletop war games. Don't have to worry about people actually suffering for something I enjoy this way. And there we've got the seat done. Let's get the fine detail stuff. So these guys, I've gone back and forth of what I've called them in different posts and when talking about them to different people. They've been everything from the Rainbow Brigade, the Rainbow Warriors, There was something else I called them too. I don't remember what it was. But my current record actually playing with them is 3-2. I've for being so rusty at the game after so many years and having to learn a new edition. Because I last played really in like 6th edition was the last time I played any kind of seriously and really knew a lot of the stuff. And now it's 9th edition and the game is basically entirely different, which is cool. It means I have to, actually focus and learn things, which is interesting to me. It's probably the most balanced edition of 40K I've played. 40K is not historically a terribly balanced game, which was a problem when I was trying to run tournaments. I'm glad I don't have to worry about that anymore and I can just enjoy playing. But my goal is by the end of August, when we're at the 1500 point stuff still, I'm hoping that while we're at 1500 points, I will have an entirely painted Warhammer army for the very first time. I've had squads, I've had parts of armies, I've had tons of individual models that have caught my interest, and then I've hyper fixated on until they've finished painted. They're finished being painted. But as far as like a whole army, no. But one of the ways that my painting has improved over the last few years is I'm a little faster at some things. And I'm a lot more accepting of good enough, which would make Callie proud because that's something she tries to beat into my head, which I need her to, is that good enough is, like I said earlier, good enough. And having a fully painted army on a tabletop, especially jet bikes, because jet bikes just look cool in mass. So having all these painted up in this vibrant, bright, obnoxiously loud paint job will be really cool. This is hands down the most vibrant paint job I've ever put on a tabletop. Yeah, I have a pile of shame that includes, I don't know, at least a dozen large model projects that I've never finished. A few of them are for armies that I don't even own the stuff for anymore, but I refused to let the project go. That's definitely a pile of shame. The unfinished started projects. And that's just the models. Let's not even start on the terrain projects that I've started and never finished. Numerous very detailed buildings that just give me anxiety every time I look at them because they're far enough done that the idea of screwing up the work I've already done to try and finish them makes me uncomfortable. SWO5, thanks for joining us. And yeah, I'm right there with you. My pile of shame got so out of hand at one point that last year I ended up going to a local a local store that does used mini sells and trades. Did a yard sale at their store where you could go and pay for a table and sell a bunch of stuff. I sold off like 3 armies worth of stuff. Oh, 10K Chaos Space Marines. Good grief, that's a lot. The desk of misfit models, I like that. Mine are at least currently all boxed up and put in a closet for the most part, so I don't have to look at them. Which I don't know if that's better or worse. Not having to look at them just means I'll never get them done. $10K, that's a lot, man. Meanwhile, I'm over here stressing about trying to get 1,500 points worth of jet bikes done. And jet bikes are expensive per model, so that's not even like 15K is a lot, or 1,500 is a lot of them. Contained. Like boxed up or like in hazardous materials containers? These are Warhammer 40,000 Eldar jet bikers called Wind Riders. If you want to go with the actual proper name for them. Thanks. I was inspired for Pride Month for my partner. So I've done them up in rainbow with rattle cans, and then I'm just adding a lot of detail and weathering to hide the shitty rattle can job. But thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing them all on the table. They're very vibrant. Like I was saying, definitely the most colorful thing I've ever put on the table. And I've got one finished that I did as kind of a test model, and it was one of my warlocks, and it turned out really nice. Looks really sharp. I still need to do the basing on it, but I figure I'm going to do all the basing. 10K Slanesh Space Marines at that, huh? I would have expected Death Guard, but that's probably just personal preference. I think Nurgle is amazing. Slanesh is freaking awesome, though. Are you getting into 30K at all? Oof, that's all. Help isn't in like help painting, or help is like an addiction hotline. Ooh. Sisters, are they the new plastic ones or the old metal ones? I've uh, I have mixed feelings about the new plastic ones because I used to. I think we've all been there, man. I think we've all been there. Uh, they have some really fine detail on them. I like some of the new models, like I don't remember the names of all of them, but like the war suits, I really like those models. They're really cool. Nothing like battle nuns and like giant mini mecha. That's just a really cool concept to me. But I don't like the run of the mill line, like just the infantry models. I like the old metal ones more. I think they really missed the boat. G-Dub did, by not making the new Plastic Sisters multi-part kits or multi-pose kits, where you could just pose them any way you wanted. I think they really missed the boat on that one. What paint scheme are you gonna go with for them? Are you doing one of the actual not chapters, covenants? I can't remember what they're called, but are you doing one of the actual orders? Yeah, yeah, that's what I've noticed is the trend towards monopose. The upside is you can get a lot more dynamic poses that way, and it lets the sculptors do some interesting things with details and negative space. But I hate it because if you're running a decent sized army with 4 or 5 squads of something, it starts to look really bad when they all look identical. uh, yeah, Chaos Sisters, I've seen some done recently that were really good. They were done up in like a baby blue and pink, which I thought was interesting. But if you go loyalist, I really like the idea like the silver and red with like the bright yellow, um, like yellow accent points. That'd be really sharp. I bet that would look really good, actually. I've done silver and blue models before, and they ended up looking just too cool. Like they didn't have enough pop to them. They looked very flat on the tabletop. But I bet it's silver and red. I bet that'd be a winning combo. Yeah, for the silver and blue, I did up some test models for a squad of purifiers for the Grey Knights back in 5th edition with that. Yeah, they just didn't like it. Which combat patrol box, Keith? Yeah, Chaos is cool because depending on what you pick, like Zinch and Slanesh especially, you can go just super vibrant, really cool paint jobs. Let's see here. That's the underside. That's the engines. That's all right. Moving on. Next one. Oh. So with the Escalation League and getting ready to, or finally getting to meet other local gamers again, I've also enjoyed that I've got to meet at least one person there that's also designing their own mini war game, which is cool. Because hopefully, he and I have talked a little bit, and hopefully, we'll be able to get some hangout time sometime and get in a game or two. Yeah, Aeldari. That's what these are, is Aeldari. That's the proper name, the new one. They used to just be called Eldar. I have watered down my black paint too much and it is breaking. Yeah. But I'm, oh, third person joined us. Welcome. Thank you for popping through. Where's my paint? Sorry, as you can see, I had watered down my black paint too much, so it was breaking on the. No, you can't see because the camera won't focus. There it is. So you can see it was breaking and running more like a wash than a paint. So had to add some more paint to the palette and thicken it back up a little. There we go. Yeah, so I'm finally getting to hang out with, it's still breaking. That could also be the primer though. This primer sucks. But getting to meet other people that are into game design and hang out, talk shop and discuss concepts and ideas, really helpful to the motivation. With COVID and everything else, it's been really hard to keep motivated on writing rules and fiction and trying to work stuff. Yeah. I'm sure discussing the idea of over thinning paints would rattle him a little bit. Hell, that might have been him that jumped in to watch, and he's getting ready to give me a piece of his mind for screwing up. So, Keith, I know you've not played these kinds of games before, but SW, what about you? What's your favorite part of actually playing games like 40K and other mini war games? Assuming you play other mini games. You might not. Yes, absolutely. Kit bashed models. Yeah, there's something really satisfying about being able to slap down a kit bash. That's actually one of the things that I enjoy most about the game that I've been working on with Seer and making it a generic game is you can use stuff from any model company with it, including Games Workshop or whatever, and that opens up to tons of kit bashing and lots of conversion potential, which I've really enjoyed. Because that's always been one of my really favorite parts of this is the kit bashing and conversions. And yeah, you could learn, Keith. Come down. I'll be happy to hang out and teach you how to play both 40K and Seer. Be a lot of fun. Come visit. You know where I live, or you can. I think my favorite conversion I've ever done that I only got to play with a couple times because only one of my opponents ever let me fielded it. Fielded? That's a good word. Ever let me play it against him was I used to play Tau back in 5th edition when they were terrible. And my buddy let me do some like custom units, which was really nice of him. Very sporting. And I kit bashed up a Piranha to be like the mini mini troop transports, almost like the same role as a land speeder Storm from the real from Space Marines. Okay, Keith, I'll message you after the stream and we can catch up about that and figure out if that's something we can actually make work, because that would be really cool. But I kit bashed up this Piranha that was a light response vehicle that was supposed to carry some fire warriors. And hey, Kelly, thanks for popping in. Just slapping some paint on some models. But yeah, that was probably my favorite model I've ever converted, was that. Love you too. Hopefully you're having fun. Tell Morgan and Amber I said hello. What about you, SW5? You said that was one of your favorite parts of the game. What's one of your favorite conversions you've ever done? Nice. It seems like that's the order of the day over there. Butchered and Abaddon. It was the top knot, right? You hated the like 5 foot tall top knot that came off of the original model. No, the red isn't top coated. It is. None of this is sealed. This should be going much easier than it is. The combi weapon and modded the Talon of Horus. The head swap I totally get. That old top knot was just ridiculous. I bet that was a cool looking model though. Swapped out for the combi weapon like that. I bet that was really neat. Did you change the posing at all, or was it still like the come get some pose? Yeah, Keith, the fun thing about this red paint, and one of the reasons why I'm really dissatisfied with how it's handling the red paint in particular, was actually high end spray primer. Oh, nice. Yeah, I bet that was an awesome pose. Powerful, looked like you just executed the other Marine. But yeah, the red I used on this, unlike the others, was actual like model primer. It was one of the Vallejo rattle cans, and it just does not want to cooperate. Oh, cool. Yeah, Alpha Legion is one of my favorites. Their fluff is really interesting. Are they traitors? Are they loyalists? Are they somewhere in the middle? I think that makes them really intriguing. Yeah, pretty much. You can get away with whatever you want with Alpha Legion. Okay. On to the bottom. Yeah, Vallejo, it really is. Like, some of it, like you said, is hit and miss because their model paints, I've noticed a huge difference between like their model paints, like their model color line versus their armor color line. And I think they have one called War Colors too that's a different formula still, and they all behave just slightly differently. And I really like their model color. Like their model color range is really good. But some of the others, not so much. SW, do you have a favorite range of paint? We were talking about that a few minutes before you jumped in. Keith was telling me he's recently trying Army Painter, and I was talking about wanting to try Pro Acryl, but I haven't yet. Instead, my current go-to is somewhere of a mix of Vallejo, however it's pronounced, and then the Army Painter stuff. And I've started using more um, oil paints for oil washes and stuff too. If you want a really crisp white, nothing beats oil paint. Like thin that down to the right consistency, and it just comes out. Yeah, Army Painter's metallics are really good. Citadel's paints, I don't really use any of anymore, mostly due to I don't like the price for how little you get in the pot, and I don't like the pots themselves, but it's really hard to beat their shades. They're just so freaking good. Yeah, the shades, especially like Null Oil and Agrax, are just, they are some sort of liquid magic. So lately this year I've been doing the monthly hobby goals and projects. These are finishing up from last month because they were supposed to be done last month. So I'm behind. But what about you guys? You guys been doing any kind of like specific hobby goals, or do you just paint when you feel like it, or build models when you feel like it? How have you guys been approaching it? I find that having a monthly goal helps keep me focused and on track and gives me something to work towards and an active deadline for it. And I've got way more focused and accomplished this year because of that rather than just last year's paint 100 minis over the course of a year. Yeah, COVID made things really rough. I started off COVID really strong, like, yay, I'll paint a bunch of models and then I'll get to play games with my friends. And then I got laid off and had to move, and a Night Abominant. I don't think I've seen that model. I'll have to go look that up. But yeah, COVID sucked, man. That's part of why I'm just now getting back into really working on my game and getting models painted, is not being able to hang out and play games made working on games really tough to get motivated to do. It just really sucked the joy out of it because I enjoy the hobby, but what makes it really worthwhile and rewarding to me is getting to hang out with cool people and play cool games and make cool memories together. Like, I like the stuff that goes with it. Like, these models are freaking cool, but it's not the same. Nah, that's the new Chaos Knight with the giant power squares. Yeah, oh, sweet. Yeah, I definitely need to look that model up. Definitely doesn't sound like anything I would ever buy and try to work on myself, but that sounds incredible. So some older Gundams that you're really excited about are coming back out. Here, I can help field that one. SW, Keith is actually my cousin, and he does Gundam. As far as like the specifics of which ones and all, he'll be able to fill that in way better than I ever could. But he does Gunpla stuff, and he's really good at it. Some of the stuff he does is freaking awesome. But we compare notes, hobby tools, and techniques pretty regular. It's definitely cool to get his perspective on like some of the modeling techniques and tools that we use, because the Gunpla community is a little different than the mini wargaming community in that respect. They're almost more scale model, or well, not almost. They are definitely more scale model oriented than just tabletop quality models slapped together. And so, hearing about and seeing some of the model kits that they have and how detailed some of them are and some of the different materials they use is really neat. Well, reissue my first master grade. Nice. So, what are the different grades again? I know master's one of the kind of higher ones. Glass file. Glass. I haven't even heard of that. I'll have to look that up. See what that is exactly. Yeah, definitely the newest like hobby tech that I've picked up has been the oil paints, not just for washes, but for actually doing some of the painting. Okay, so as I'm finishing this one up on the black spots and getting the details picked out a little more, I think it's time to start wrapping up the stream. I've been on about an hour. I've got all that done. I need to do more weathering. I guess I can do some of the weathering while I'm closing out. Are those the different grits of the files? So now the next thing I'm going to do is see if I can frame it up where it's actually visible. So some of these you can see I've done some pretty heavy splotchy metallic work on. Now I'm going to make it look like there's actually holes and deep gouges in the metal by doing some line work with the black. I'm just going to go real careful and leave just a hint of silver around it. Oh, those are the grades. High grade, master grade. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Well, thank you guys for joining me and hanging out while I'm doing some hotel hobby time. I really appreciate it. It helps the time go by faster when I'm stuck in a hotel room by myself for days and weeks at a time. But there you can see kind of what that finished product is going to look like, a little better with the black spot in the middle of that one chipped out looking area. It's going to help those points of battle damage really stand out, which is what I'm shooting for. I want them to be visible from a long distance away. But as I'm winding up, if you want to know more about my game Seer and see some of my other stuff, in the links that go with all this, I'll make sure you can find here in just a few minutes links to my Instagram, the web page, which you can find in our YouTube profile, all that stuff. Recently started a TikTok, though I haven't been posting to it as regularly as when I first started it. But that's a fun one because you can see like some little like behind the scenes hit and miss stuff that doesn't go in the actual YouTube videos, which I'm starting to get back into making. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, SW. When they're all done up and you get the riders on them, if I can actually get a rider to sit on it. But when they're all done up and you get the riders on them, they look pretty good. They stand out, they're vibrant, the riders stand out on them. There we go. And then the, like these guys, the rider will have red and white detailing on him too. So the rider will stand out from the bike a little bit and be highlighted. But yeah, thanks a ton for joining me. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed some conversation and BSing and watching a relative noob paint some models. But yeah, check out my Instagram, Facebook, all that business. I don't have a Patreon that's active at the moment or anything like that. I'm not asking for your money. Just enjoy checking out some kind of cool paint schemes, some cool terrain builds. Listen to me occasionally wax poetic about mini wargame rules because I enjoy the rules as much as I enjoy the models. And I'll make sure to post links to all that in the description and everything here shortly. So in the meantime, thank you all for hanging out, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. That's going to be it for me for now.